My name is Rachel, and everything changed on my 36th birthday. I had been planning for weeks on how to wear a beautiful fashion outfit to the perfect party at Seattle's best restaurant. Time seemed to stop when my nephew Marcus threw his fruit punch across the table on purpose. The dark liquid spread like ink across my white silk. "Now you look just like how ordinary you really are," he said with a sneer. He was 19 years old and meant no harm. My dad gave me a happy smile. I only smiled, but something finally broke inside me. It would be great if you could, join and tell me where you're from in the comments. What came next will blow your mind. I've always been the one my family can count on. In our hometown, my brother Derek was moving from job to job and living situation to living situation. I moved to Seattle and built a business as a consultant. I worked hard and stayed up late a lot to go from being an entry-level analyst to a senior director at one of the biggest firms in the Northwest. Those sacrifices were shown by my apartment with a view of Puget Sound, my carefully chosen wardrobe, and the fancy car I bought after my last raise. My 2-year-old brother Derek had gone in a different direction. He had Marcus when he was 22, dropped out of college, and then went through a series of businesses and entry-level jobs. I never told him what to do, but I did become the safety net for the family. Every month, Rachel got a call that said, "Rachel, the landlord wants to be paid. Could you help just this once?" My car broke down again. "Marcus needs to get to his basketball game. Could you send him some money?" The emergency credit card I gave Derek 3 years ago was only for real emergencies. Instead, he used it to pay for expensive things, trips on the weekends, and restaurant meals that he could never afford. I always paid the bill on time every month. Family helps family, right? I bought Marcus a car when he turned 17 and needed one for school. Not just any car, but an SUV that I registered in my name so that my insurance would cover it. "You can use it until you finish school." I told him, and I saw his face darken when I said use instead of own. This was something my dad, Robert, taught me my whole life. When I was in recitals as a child, my perfect performance got a distracted "well done," while Derek's shaky try got lots of praise for his effort. This set the pattern early on. When I got good grades, my dad told me I was lucky. He asked out loud if I really had the skills for such hard work when I got my first consulting job. The trend kept going into adulthood. When I got promoted, people told me, "I hope you're not overworking yourself, sweetheart." And when I did well at work, they told me, "Success isn't everything, Rachel." Derek, on the other hand, was doing his best and was so determined even though he kept failing. I was promoted again last month to Senior Vice President of Planning. A lot of money was added to the pay. My dad told me, "That's great, dear. Did I tell you that Derek is thinking about some certification programs?" He is so motivated. That night, Derek called to thank me and said, "Must be nice." There were rude sounds coming from Marcus in the background. Some of us have real responsibilities, not just corner offices. No matter what, I cared about them. They were like family to me, and I thought that one day they would see me for who I am and help me. That idea kept me going through things I'd rather forget, criticism that wasn't direct, and being taken advantage of financially. I decided that this year would be different when my birthday came around. One of Seattle's best restaurants would be the place where I held my party. Something unique is what I would wear. I'd invite my closest family and friends, and I might do it in the middle of the life I had built. They would finally understand what I've been through. When I thought about it now, I realized how badly I was still wanting their approval. I believed that success would finally make them love me the way I had always loved them. I didn't know at the time that some people are driven to get it wrong, especially when your successes show them how bad they are. Planning my birthday party turned into a job that I threw myself into with the usual level of accuracy. Meridian needed plans 3 months ahead of time, so I set an alarm on my phone to call them as soon as their booking system opened. I knew this birthday party would finally be different when I booked the private dining room for 8 people on my actual birthday. The outfit came next. I wanted something unique that showed what kind of person I had become. It took me 4 weekends of shopping at shops to find it. An ivory-colored silk dress that fell just below my knees and had small pearl details along the neckline. It cost $2,800, which was more than any clothes item I'd ever bought, but I knew it was right when I tried it on. As I looked at myself in the mirror, the saleswoman smiled. "Special event?" she asked as she carefully folded the dress into a piece of tissue paper. I said, "My birthday. Meridian is where I'll be having dinner." "Beautiful. Your partner must be really happy." I turned my head away. "No, buddy. Just me having fun." She gave a positive nod. Better still, 6 weeks before the event, invitations were sent out. My best friends answered right away. The people who answered were excited to confirm an offer to help with planning. They were Lauren from college, who is now a doctor, Jasmine from work, and Daniel and his partner Ryan, who lived in my building. It was harder to invite my family. First, I called my dad. He said it was a Thursday evening and sounded annoyed. Rachel, that's a long way to drive into the city during the week. Dad, I know. I can help you get where you need to go if that helps. We'll see. I need to ask Derek about it. Marcus may have to go to basketball practice. I tried not to show my sadness. Meridian is where it is. It was hard to get the ticket. Thank you very much for being able to come. He said, we'll try. I knew that promise didn't mean much. Derek's answer was just as bland. Meridian is that place, and it's very pricey. I told him it was my treat. For everyone. Marcus must have something appropriate to put on. People expect him to dress up so he can't just show up in normal clothes. As I closed my eyes, I did 5 counts. If that helps, I can send you some money to buy him a new outfit. Derek said that's the very least you could do. He seemed to think I was being rude by asking them to a $900 dinner, and we might be a little late. Marcus has to play basketball until 6. I got up early on my birthday morning. I planned to get ready all day with a massage, facial, hair, and makeup. I told myself that tonight might be different. As I sipped my coffee in the morning, my family would get a good look at me for the first time tonight, surrounded by signs of my success. They would back you up. They would see that the luck they had always given me was earned through hard work. I was ready by 6 o'clock. The clothes were a great fit. My hair fell in soft waves, and my makeup made me look better without being too much. I looked just like I had hoped, proud, successful, and ready to celebrate. The people who work at the diner called me by name when I walked in. Miss Chen, happy birthday. Your private room is ready, and as you asked, we have the champagne chilling. My friends showed up right on time at 6:30 with gifts that were beautifully wrapped and real smiles. Lauren gave me a tight hug and whispered, "You look absolutely stunning." By 7:30, we were sitting down at the table, and my family was still not there. Several times I looked at my phone as the first meal came out. Jasmine asked in a soft voice, "Should we wait?" I turned my head away. No, let's start. They'll join us when they get here. My family finally showed up at 7:45, just as the second dish was being served. My dad was the first one to arrive. He was wearing the same outfit to all of the official events. Derek followed, and he looked mad. Marcus was following them behind, already on his phone and wearing sports clothes that had no place in that place. My father said, "Sorry we are late," but he didn't sound sorry at all. The traffic was awful. The staff quickly moved everyone back to where they belonged and brought them their first courses while we continued to eat. The first discussion didn't go well. My friends tried to include my family by politely asking them about their lives, but they didn't get many answers. Dear Marcus, Rachel told us that you are a very good player. Daniel kindly told him. Marcus just shrugged and looked down at his phone. My dad spoke up and said, "I guess he is very talented. His coach says he could go to college," Derek said with pride. I saw the opening and said he just needs better training. The facility in our town is so basic. If Marcus is serious about basketball, I could help look into summer programs in Seattle. They have excellent opportunities. We cannot all afford to live in luxury apartments, Rachel. Derek said, "Some of us have to make do with what we have." There was silence at the table. Ryan looked at me and gave me a small, raised question. I shook my head a little. Not now. Over the course of the evening, the differences between my family and friends became clearer. Friends made me feel good by asking me deep questions, telling me stories that showed off my best traits, and generally making the mood happy. My family just sat there rigidly and didn't say much, except for the odd critical comment. She raised her glass first to Rachel, who has been my rock for 15 years, when it was time to toast. Others said things like, "Your kindness is matched only by your determination. I am so proud to call you my friend." When it was our turn, my dad just said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart. You're 36 already." Time flies. Derek reluctantly raised his glass to my little sister. He always looks to the stars when the rest of us are trying to stay on Earth. Marcus didn't toast at all because he was texting under the table. The part where they opened gifts was just as painful. It was Lauren and Jasmine who bought the beautiful leather portfolio with my name stamped on it. My friends Daniel and Ryan bought me a spa package for the weekend at a lodge in Oregon. Each gift was thoughtful, unique, and came with a card from the heart. I tried to keep a calm face when I opened Derek's gift. It was a scented candle from a discount shop. The $8 price tag was still on the bag, which was still on sale. The card was clearly taken from a grocery store display. It only said, "Happy birthday, sis," and their names were written at the bottom. I said thank you and carefully put it with the other gifts. "This is beautiful." As an excuse, Derek said, "We can't all afford fancy gifts. Some of us have real costs." The main course came out. A fancy cake made of chocolate and edible flowers that said, "Happy birthday, Rachel," in gold leaf across the top. As the waiter talked about the parts, I saw Marcus's face get darker. All evening, he had been sad, but now there was something else in his eyes, something smart. The way the treat was set up was a work of art, and the sparkler made tables nearby take notice. As everyone looked at it with admiration, I felt proud for a moment. This was my life, which I had made from scratch. I let myself enjoy it without saying sorry for a second. At that moment, I saw Marcus whispering to Derek. Derek smiled and muttered something back. When my dad leaned in to listen in on their private talk, they all looked at me with looks that made my stomach hurt. "Everything okay?" I asked in a soft voice. "All right," my dad said. It was Marcus who said, "Everything is so complicated." I extended an olive branch to my nephew. "I'm glad you could come, Marcus. I know it's hard for you to make it to events during the week." That was the first time Marcus looked straight at me. "Yeah, whatever. Must be nice to waste money like this when there are people struggling." "Marcus," Derek said in a tone that didn't sound like he was telling him off, "be polite. It's your aunt's birthday." My friends looked at each other awkwardly. Daniel blew his nose. "So, Rachel was telling us you might be looking at colleges soon, Marcus. Any thoughts on what you might want to study?" Marcus looked away. "Not everyone gets to go to college. Some of us have to work for a living. Actually," I carefully added, "I have been putting some money aside for your education. There are also some great sports teams that offer scholarships." The table went silent. Everyone was shocked by this news, even Derek, who looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean by putting money aside? A fund for school?" he asked. "I started it when Marcus was born," I said. "It's not a lot of money, but it should at least cover community college and maybe even more with grants." "You never said this before," my dad said with a frown. "When the time was right, I wanted it to be a surprise. It seemed like a good time to bring it up now that Marcus is beginning to think about his future." As I watched, 3 faces turned angry at the same time. My dad pursed his lips, Derek's eyes got smaller, and Marcus, who looked more angry than ever, suddenly gripped his water glass so tightly that his knuckles got wider. "So you have been sitting on money the whole time, while we've been having trouble." Derek's voice had that dangerous edge I remembered from fights with my siblings when I was a kid, and my dad had to refinance his house to help me pay my rent. As the evening was blurting out, I said, "That's not what I said. I set it aside specifically for Marcus's education. It's held in trust. Always the rescuer," Derek said, "always making the rest of us look inadequate." Now, it was clear that my friends were uncomfortable. Lauren put her hand on my arm to comfort me, but she didn't say anything. What could she say? This was family drama being shown in the worst possible place. I tried to save the party by saying, "Let's just enjoy dessert. We can talk about the education fund another time." "No, let's talk about it now," Marcus said out of the blue. "I don't need your help. You don't need anything from me." "Marcus, young man," my dad said, "your aunt is just trying to help." Marcus replied, "She's trying to control everything like she always does. She walks around like she's better than everyone because she's rich, and we should be thankful that she gives us her leftovers." Even though I knew it was just my mind wandering to this terrible moment, the restaurant seemed to quiet down around us. The lovely evening I had planned for months was falling apart right in front of my eyes. She said, "That's not true. I care about you. Because you are my nephew and I care about your future, I want to help." Marcus suddenly stood up and grabbed his almost full glass of fruit punch, which the eatery had made just for him. "Do you want to know how I feel about the help you gave me?" He spoke louder. "You want to know what I think of your nice outfit, restaurant, and life?" Before anyone could say anything, he threw the contents of his glass directly at me. The cold liquid hit my chest and face right away, soaking into the ivory silk of my $2,800 outfit and leaving dark rivulets that could not be fixed. In the stunned silence that followed, Marcus delivered the final blow. Now you look as ordinary as you really are. My friends gasped, and Daniel almost got up from his chair, but I stopped him. The restaurant was now very quiet, and everyone could hear what was going on in our corner. I thought my father would scold Marcus, apologize profusely, or do something to acknowledge how cruel what had just happened. Instead, he patted Marcus's hand and said, "Rachel, I think we should go. You know how young adults act when they don't feel good?" Derek asked as he gathered his things. "We told you this place was too complicated." People were looking at me funny as dark liquid dripped from my ruined outfit onto the white tablecloth. The staff hovered nearby, not sure what to do next. It's okay. I said to myself, my voice steady, "Despite everything, thank you for coming." As they left, leaving me embarrassed in front of my friends and a restaurant full of strangers, I kept my cool and rubbed my clothes with a napkin, knowing it wouldn't help. I smiled at my worried friends and said, "Well, I guess the evening is ending early." Lauren quickly sat down next to me and put her arm around my shoulders. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. That was unacceptable. Jasmine was already talking to the waiter, arranging for our bill to be settled and our remaining desserts to be packed up. Daniel and Ryan flanked me protectively as we made our way out of the restaurant, my ruined outfit drawing sympathetic glances from other diners. In the privacy of my apartment, surrounded only by my true friends, I finally allowed myself to cry. The outfit was destroyed. The evening was ruined. But more importantly, the fantasy I had clung to for years, that my family might someday recognize and appreciate me, had been shattered beyond repair. As my friends offered comfort and outrage on my behalf, something hardened inside me. Years of financial support, emotional labor, and desperate attempts to win acceptance had led to this moment of public humiliation. Something had to change. After my friends left, I sat alone in my living room, still wearing the stained outfit. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my banking app, looking at years of transactions. Tens of thousands of dollars flowed from my accounts to support my brother and nephew. The credit card statement showed shopping at premium stores, entertainment expenses, and restaurants far nicer than Derek could afford on his own. Then I opened my social media and felt my blood go cold. Marcus had already posted about the incident. A blurry photo of me in the stained outfit was captioned, "When wealthy auntie needs to be humbled. Sorry, not sorry." Ordinary as she really looks. The post had dozens of reactions already, including one from my brother. In that moment, something broke free inside me. The need for validation, the desperate desire for family acceptance, the willingness to be used again and again, all of it fell away. In its place was a clarity I had never experienced before. I picked up my phone again and made 2 calls. The first was to my credit card company. The second was to my attorney. Alone in my apartment, I finally peeled off the ruined outfit. $2,800 of silk and pearl detailing was destroyed in seconds by deliberate cruelty. I hung it in my bathroom, a dark-stained reminder of this turning point. The shower water ran hot as I scrubbed fruit punch from my skin and hair. My mind raced through years of similar moments. Derek accidentally spilled wine on my graduation outfit. Marcus forgot to tell me about family gatherings. My father dismissed every achievement with faint praise, followed by a change of subject to Derek's latest challenge. Why had I accepted this treatment for so long? The question echoed as I wrapped myself in a robe and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with text messages from friends checking in. "Lauren, are you okay? Do you want me to come back?" "Daniel, that was an unacceptable act." "Jasmine, we're here for you. Just say the word and I will help you set boundaries with those toxic people." I appreciated their concern, but I needed time. I was alone to think about what had happened and what I needed to do next. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of my family's disapproval. One punch-soaked evening of clarity had broken their power over me. The morning after my birthday, things went according to plan. I woke up early after a surprisingly restful sleep, made coffee, and went over my action plan. I felt almost euphoric, like I had surfaced after years underwater. My first call was to the credit card company at exactly 8 a.m. when they opened. The agent was polite and interested. "May I ask why the item was removed?" "The authorized user has misused the card for non-emergency personal expenses against our agreement." "I get it, Miss Chen. That's something I can handle right away." Charges that are already due will still be handled, but after we deactivate the card, no more charges will be able to be made. That is fine, and I would like a new card issued to me with a different number. Of course. We'll get that to you quickly. Could you please tell me what else I can do today? No, thanks. Everything is taken care of. It was unbelievable how easy it was to stop Derek's outrageous fees after years of putting up with them without complaining. With just one phone call, a major way of taking advantage of me was shut down. The second person I called was my friend Thomas, who is an attorney who specializes in the law of property. Rachel, Lauren told me about last night. Are you okay? I am getting there, I said. I need some quick legal advice about a vehicle. I told him what was going on. The car was bought in my name and will only be used by Marcus. I paid for everything. You are well within the law, he told me. The car is registered to you. There is no proof that you gave the insurance, and you pay for it. You can get it back at any time. It's hard to follow through on verbal promises, especially with a child. That's why I told him he could use it. At school. You don't own something when you use it. You have every right to get your stuff back. I felt calm and said, "Thank you, Thomas. I will make sure to write down everything." When I called a respected tow company on my third attempt, I told them I needed my car picked up from the high school parking lot. I will have to show proof that I own it. I said, getting ready to email copies of the insurance and license. Yes, ma'am. Before we can move forward, we will need that paperwork. I sent the files right away and then set the pickup time for 7:30 a.m. because I knew Marcus would be at basketball practice early that morning. Please be discreet, I asked. There may be some confusion about the ownership. We get it. Our drivers know how to handle tough conditions. Next, I called my financial advisor. We usually meet every 3 months, but this had to be done right away. Janet, I need to review my financial obligations. I am making some big changes to how I support my family. Janet had been questioning my level of financial support to my brother for a long time, but she had always been polite about it. I have time this afternoon if you would like to come in, she offered. Great. I will see you at 1. The final preparation was emotional. I sat down with my journal and wrote out exactly what I wanted to say to my family. No accusations, no blame, just facts. The total amount spent, the ungrateful responses, the public humiliation, the clear path forward. By 9:30 a.m., the first crisis call came through. Derek's voice was sharp with panic. Rachel, my card was declined at the gas station. There must be a mistake. I took a deep breath. No, Derek, there is no mistake. You are no longer allowed to use my credit card. There was a stunned silence. Then what did you do? I blocked your use of my credit card for good because of what happened last night. Are you serious now? It was just a dinner. At my birthday party, your son purposely made fun of me, ruined a $2,800 outfit, and then posted mean things about me online. You liked those posts. But this isn't just about last night. Our unstable relationship has been caused by years of relying on each other for money. So you're just cutting me off like that? What am I going to do to pay for something? The same way other adults do with your own money from your own job. His voice changed from angry to pleading, Rachel, please. Next week, my bills are due. Marcus needs new shoes for basketball. I refuse to give in to the familiar guilt that was pulling at me. I'm sorry you're in this situation, but it's no longer my job to handle your finances. You selfish, he hissed, turning angry when his threats didn't work. After everything I've done for you. What have you done for me, Derek? Please explain. When he didn't answer, I said, I'm free to talk in person at my place at 3 this afternoon. We should talk about this in person, he said, and I hung up while he was still making threats and insults. The next call at 7:55 a.m. was from Marcus, whose voice was shaking with fear and anger. My car is gone. Someone stole it from the school lot. I told him quietly. It's not your car, Marcus. It's mine. I bought it. The insurance is paid for by me, and the title is in my name. I have arranged to have it returned to me. His shock was audible. You cannot do that. I need that vehicle. You needed transportation, which I provided. You have now lost that privilege because of your behavior. Are you serious? It was just a joke. Deliberately humiliating someone is not a joke. Posting content mocking me online is not a joke. Those are cruel actions with real consequences. His voice cracked as he shifted tactics. Please, Aunt Rachel, I am sorry. I will delete the posts. I need the vehicle for school and basketball. Please do not do this. I have made my decision. We can discuss this further when you come with, "Where's your father?" to my apartment at 3 today. My father called next. His voice, that particular mixture of disappointment and manipulation he had perfected over decades. Rachel, what is this I hear about you taking Marcus's vehicle and canceling your brother's credit card over a spilled drink? That is a rather significant understatement of what happened, Dad. And yes, I have reclaimed my vehicle and closed the credit account I was allowing Derek to use. This family supports each other, he said, as if reciting scripture. We do not punish each other over small incidents. I agree that families should support each other, but support should be reciprocal and appreciated, not demanded and mocked. Marcus is just a young adult. He made a mistake. He is 19, Dad. Old enough to understand cruelty, old enough to face consequences. He sighed heavily. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I am sure they will apologize if that is what it takes. What it takes for what? To get the funds flowing again. That is exactly the problem. Any apology given under those circumstances would be meaningless. So you are just cutting them off? Your own family? I am establishing boundaries that should have been set long ago. We can discuss this further when you all come to my apartment at 3. My meeting with Janet, my financial advisor, was revelatory. She created a spreadsheet showing my financial support of my family over the past 5 years. The total comes to just over $142,000, she said, turning the screen toward me, not including the vehicle. Seeing the number in black and white was shocking. And if I had invested that money instead, she ran the calculation. At a moderate growth rate, you would have an additional $18,000 in your portfolio today. And moving forward, if I stop all financial support, you could move your retirement timeline up by at least 3 years, or purchase that vacation property you have been considering, or both. The possibilities expanded before me. Freedom from financial obligation meant freedom to live my own life fully. By the time I returned to my apartment, the towing company had delivered my vehicle to the building's garage. The attendant handed me the keys with a sympathetic smile. A young man at the school was very angry and kept saying it was his car. Family misunderstanding? I told him simply, "Thank you for handling it professionally. I spent the next hour getting my apartment ready for the argument. I put the financial papers on the dining table and printed screenshots of Marcus's social media posts. I also made coffee and water, but no snacks or other comforts because this was not a social visit." Around 2:55 p.m., the security guard at my building called and said, "Miss Chen, Derek, Marcus, and Robert Chen are here to see you." I straightened my shoulders and said, "Please send them up." A short time later, there was a knock on the door. It was 3 sharp raps that somehow conveyed anger. When I opened it, I saw exactly what I expected. Derek with a red face from anger, Marcus crying but still defiant, and my father with his martyred look. "Come in," I said calmly. "We have a lot to talk about." They stormed into my apartment like intruders, Derek first with barely contained anger, Marcus sulking behind him, and my father at the back with a sad, disappointed look that had scared me since I was a child. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the dining table where I had set up the papers. Derek snapped, "I'm not sitting down until you explain yourself. How dare you leave my son at school alone? You're so rude to cancel my credit card without telling me first. The car is registered in my name." I said calmly, "I cover the risk. By law, it's mine. Marcus got it from you. I gave it to him to use." "This is very different," my dad said as he stepped in to act as a mediator. "Rachel, dear, I know you're upset about what happened at your birthday dinner, but this answer is totally out of line. Is it?" I asked, pulling. I made out a chair for myself and sitting down. "Please sit down, everyone." Even though they didn't want to, they sat down around the table. Marcus instantly slouched in his chair and crossed his arms over his chest in a defensive way. I slid a folder toward them and said, "These are my bank records from the last 5 years. They show every transfer I made to Derek's account. The total is $68,425. Derek's eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing. "These are the credit card statements for the account I allowed you to use for emergencies," I continued, pushing another folder forward. "The total charges come to $51.90. Items purchased include designer clothing, restaurant meals, concert tickets, and entertainment expenses. Not what most people would consider emergencies. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. Family supports family. Rachel, you have been blessed with professional success. I have worked extremely hard for my professional success, I corrected him. 60 to 70-hour weeks for years, sacrificed relationships and personal time, earned every promotion through excellence. I turned to the next document. This is the purchase agreement for the vehicle Marcus has been using. $28,500 plus insurance and maintenance costs of approximately $3,800 annually, all paid by me. Marcus had the grace to look slightly ashamed, though he still would not meet my eyes. The total financial support I have provided over the past 5 years comes to $142,000, I concluded. Funds freely given out of care and concern for your well-being. The room was silent as they absorbed this information. Derek looked stunned, as if seeing the total amount for the first time made him realize the extent of his dependence. And this, I said, placing my tablet on the table, is how my generosity has been repaid. I opened the screen to Marcus's social media page showing the posts from the previous night, the photo of me with the stained outfit, the content secretly recorded during the dinner, the mocking captions and harsh comments. Marcus, would you care to explain why you thought it appropriate to humiliate me publicly and then share that humiliation with hundreds of people online? And he squirmed in his seat. It was just a joke. Everyone posts stuff like that. A joke is something everyone laughs at. Did you see me laughing when you threw your drink on me? Did you think I would find it amusing to have a $2,800 outfit ruined? You can afford another one, he muttered. That is not the point. The point is respect, basic human decency, neither of which you demonstrated last night. I turned to Derek, and you reacted positively to these posts. You commented with approval. You encouraged this behavior. I did not think it was that serious, he defended weakly. And you, I said finally to my father, when Marcus threw his drink on me, you took his side. You comforted him as if he was the victim. My father looked genuinely confused. He was upset. He was upset because he had just deliberately humiliated me in public. And your first instinct was to comfort him, not to address his appalling behavior. I stood up and walked to the window, gathering my thoughts before turning back to face them. For years, I have supported you financially and emotionally. I have never asked for anything in return except basic appreciation and respect. Last night made it crystal clear that I cannot even expect that much from you. Derek seemed to finally grasp the severity of the situation. So, you are just cutting us off completely. I am establishing boundaries that should have been in place long ago. The credit card is canceled. The financial support is over. The vehicle is mine again. How am I going to get to basketball? Marcus yelled, "How am I going to get to school?" Many other young adults also do the same thing. They walk, take the bus, or ask their friends to give them a ride. This isn't fair, and neither is being made fun of and embarrassed by someone who has helped me a lot for years. My dad tried something new. Rachel, I know you're hurt, but this feels like punishment, and families shouldn't punish each other, he said. This isn't a sentence. These are the normal results. When you treat someone badly who has been helping you, that help may stop. The truth of their situation was starting to sink in. Derek looked pale. The rent is due next week. I need your help to make it. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Like a second job or a neighbor. And Marcus's basketball fees and school fund? The fund for education still exists. He can get to it when he starts college because it is in a trust. Because of the basketball fees, you will need to make your own budget. Marcus's eyes got really big. So you're not taking away the college funds that were always meant for your education? They will still be used for that, she said. But everything else, all the extra help is over. The room was very quiet, and my family looked at each other like they didn't know what to do next. The situation had changed so much that their normal methods of guilt, manipulation, anger, and tears weren't working. I can't believe you would do this to your own family, my dad finally said, trying to get me to feel bad. What have we been through together, Dad? After everything we've been through together? When have any of you helped me when things were hard? When was the last time you praised my successes without being angry or jealous? When did you treat me with tenths of the care I've shown you? He didn't say anything. Derek changed his strategy right away. Okay, we messed up, he said. We're sorry. How can this be fixed? A quick apology won't fix this. There are deeply broken patterns in our relationship that have been going on for decades and will take a lot of time and work to fix, if they can be fixed at all. That's it. You're done with us. Marcus's voice cracked, showing real fear underneath his teenage bluster. I lowered my tone a bit. I wasn't done with you. I wasn't done putting up with your bad behavior. I wasn't done accepting disrespect and cruelty as my fair share. I walked back to the table and stacked the papers neatly. I asked each of you to think about our relationship and how you have treated me, and whether your treatment matches the care you say you feel. For the first time, I saw doubt in my father's eyes, maybe even the start of real regret. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you go home and figure out how to live within your actual means. You create a budget that does not include my financial support. You consider whether having me in your lives is important enough to treat me with basic respect and decency. I walked to the door and opened it, a clear signal that the conversation was over. I care for you all, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it despite everything, but I will no longer accept being valued conditionally or treated disrespectfully. They filed out silently, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. As my father passed last in line, he paused. I never meant to hurt you, he said softly. I know, but you did repeatedly. And now we all have to live with the consequences of that. The door closed behind them and I was alone in the quiet of my apartment. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly free. The weight of obligation, of unrequited familial acceptance had lifted. Whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms. 6 months passed. Each day, a small step toward a new normal. Spring gave way to summer, and summer faded into fall. My life transformed in ways both subtle and profound. The first month after our confrontation was the hardest. My phone buzzed constantly with messages alternating between anger, pleading, and guilt manipulation. I responded factually and calmly to direct questions, but refused to engage with emotional manipulation. Eventually, the barrage slowed, then stopped entirely. For 2 weeks. The silence was both painful and peaceful. Then came a text from Marcus that changed everything. I got a job at the sporting goods store, saving for a vehicle, not asking for funds. Just wanted you to know that a simple message, free from demands or accusations, was the first tender shoot of something new growing from the scorched earth of our relationship. I replied simply, I am proud of you. That's not easy. Derek's change took longer. My dad says he went through anger, depression, and finally, reluctant acceptance. 3 months after our argument, he got a better-paying job as an operations manager and moved to a smaller apartment he could actually afford. When he finally got in touch, his message was a surprise. Thank you for making me stand on my own. I don't like that this had to happen, but I needed the push. My dad was the hardest case to deal with because he had supported Derek for decades and ignored me. We started by calling once a week for a short, neutral conversation. He was trying to break old habits and would sometimes say things like, I'm glad to hear about Derek's new job, but I always gently steered the conversation in a different direction. That must be a relief for everyone. Slowly, my dad started to see me clearly, maybe for the first time. He asked me about my job, my friends, and my life, and he did so with real attention, not just to be polite. During one call, he said something that shocked me. Rachel, you sound different, happier, I replied. Setting limits has helped me. I can see that now, he said thoughtfully. I wish I had been better at recognizing you before. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was a start. After 6 months, we started having monthly family dinners at my dad's house instead of fancy restaurants where we learned how to be together again without the distortions of financial dependence. One dinner, Marcus had grown up a lot. He asked if he could talk to me alone afterward, and we walked in my dad's garden as night fell. I need to apologize properly, he said, looking me in the eye. What I did at your birthday was mean and careless. I wished I had your life and success. You made it look so easy, but Dad and I had a hard time with it. It was never easy. I told him, I worked so hard for everything I have. The only difference was that I owned up to my decisions. He nodded. I get that now. Working for minimum wage has taught me a lot, he said in a dry tone that made me laugh. I guess it has. But the thing is, he went on, I like making my own money. It feels good to buy something and know that it's mine and not a gift. I agreed. That's how being independent works. It's harder, but it's worth it. When we talked about college, he asked tentatively, is that trust fund still there? It is. Education was always the plan for those funds, and it still is. His relief was palpable. Thank you. I'm looking to state schools with better sports programs than the ones I had in mind before. He asked us on the way back to the house, are you and I okay? That sounds like a good choice. Be honest, I told him. We are getting there. It takes time to rebuild trust. One of the biggest changes was in Derek. Without my financial support, he had found resources inside himself that he didn't know he had. He was taking evening classes in business management to build skills for long-term career growth. During a rare lunch with just the two of us, he told me, I had hated your perfect life and freedom for so long. At that time, I told myself that you were lucky because you didn't have a child and had left home. I can now see that you and I both made choices. There were different results for each choice. It's not your fault. It was the closest we had ever been to a real connection as adults. My father took the longest to really change, but little things were happening. He started to treat Derek and me more equally, noticing my successes without jumping to Derek's problems right away. One night after dinner, he took my hand and said, I failed you as a father. I favored your brother because he seemed to need me more. I didn't think much about your strength. Rachel, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Hearing those words brought tears to my eyes. Thank you, Dad. My own life improved in unexpected ways. I had more time and money to pursue new interests. I took a photography class I had always been interested in. I went on more dates, and I even took a 2-week vacation to Italy, something I had dreamed of for years. When my 37th birthday came around, I thought about keeping it quiet because the memory of the disaster the previous year was still fresh in my mind, but Lauren persuaded me otherwise. You cannot let one bad experience rob you of celebrations forever, she said. Just do it differently this time. So, I planned a small get-together at my dad's house. No fancy restaurant, no designer clothes, just family and close friends, a home-cooked meal, and real conversation. Though they were still learning and making mistakes, my family was trying in ways they had never done before. Marcus had made me a handmade card that showed he had put a lot of thought and effort into it. Derek had bought me a simple but thoughtful gift that didn't break the bank, and my dad had made all of my favorite foods from childhood. When it was time for toasts, my dad stood up first, which surprised everyone. To my daughter, Rachel, he said, who had the courage to show us all a better way to be family and who cared enough to stop letting us act badly. I am proud of the woman you have become and thankful for the chance to really know you now. Emotions ran high around the table. The path had been hard, but the end goal was worth it. We were creating something new from the ashes of unhealthy patterns, instead of dependence and anger. At the end of the night, when everyone was leaving, Marcus came up to me with an envelope. I saved for my job. He said, handing it to me, it's not much, but I wanted to repay you at least symbolically for the car and everything else. Inside were $250 in carefully counted bills. Marcus, you don't need to do this, I said, but he insisted, I want to show you I understand now. I took the envelope seriously, not because of its value, but because of what it stood for: responsibility, growth, and respect. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the lesson of the past year. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are the ones most necessary for growth, and sometimes family has to break before it can be properly rebuilt. The relationship with my family was still healing, still evolving. There would be missteps and old patterns to overcome. But for the first time, I felt hopeful that we were moving towards something healthier, something based on mutual respect rather than obligation and resentment. The journey had been painful but necessary. By standing firm in my worth, I had given my family the opportunity to rise to their best selves rather than continuing to sink into entitled dependence. And I had given myself permission to be valued, respected, and truly appreciated. If you have ever dealt with entitled family members or struggled to establish boundaries with loved ones, please share your experiences in the comments below. How did you handle it? What worked for you? And if you found this story of family transformation meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most necessary healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the strength to create healthy boundaries in your own relationships.